I will never forget the way the little girl held her stomach in that dark room. Her eyes were open, but they looked empty, like she had no more tears left. That was the first thing I saw when I pushed the weak wooden door. The baby was lying on a wrapper on the floor and breathing fast. My heart jumped. I felt something heavy in my chest. That was the moment I knew that the cup of rice I gave that woman was not just rice. It was life. It was hope. And it was not enough. But before I reached that room, before I saw that kind of hunger that makes a child too tired to cry, my day started like any other day. I woke up early, swept the compound, and washed small clothes. My husband, Okechukwu, was already talking about how money was not flowing well in our shop. He kept saying we must hold our money tight. I just nodded because that morning my mind was not in the mood for plenty talk. I was packing beans to wash for the afternoon when I heard a soft knock on our gate. It was the kind of knock that carries shame inside it. Slow, weak, like the person knocking was afraid of disturbing anybody. I wiped my hands on my wrapper and went to check who it was. When I opened the gate, I saw her. A thin woman with tired eyes. Her wrapper looked old and torn in one corner. She was holding a cracked white bowl like someone holding the last thing they owned in this life. Her voice shook when she spoke. She begged me for just 1 cup of rice. Not to borrow, not to pay later. She just wanted to feed her children. Her voice touched something inside me, but I also remembered the warning my husband gave me earlier that week. He said I should stop giving out things anyhow because we were planning to buy a piece of land and we needed to save every kobo. He said I should face my own family and stop carrying strangers' problems on my head. But looking at the woman standing in front of me that morning, I could not tell her to go away. I could not close gate on her. Hunger was holding her neck. So I went inside and measured 1 cup of rice for her. I did not pour it inside her cracked bowl. I used a nylon bag because something told me she needed that rice fast. She thanked me so many times and rushed out with joy. In her excitement, she forgot the bowl she came with. I picked it up and tried to call her back, but she was already far down the street. I wanted to leave the bowl and face my work, but the way she held her hands together while begging kept flashing in my mind. The way her voice trembled, the way her eyes looked like someone fighting to stay alive. I decided I would return the bowl to her. I would just carry it, follow the direction she gave, and give it back. Nothing more, nothing extra. I told myself that. I believed it too. But as I stepped out of my compound with the bowl in my hand, I did not know that I was walking into a story that would change my life forever. I walked down the street, holding the woman's cracked bowl in my hand. The sun was hot, but my mind was hotter. I kept thinking about her thin face and the way she rushed off with the rice, like someone running to save a life. The street she described was not far, but the deeper I walked, the quieter it became. The houses looked older, the doors looked tired, and the smell of smoke and dust mixed in the air. I kept asking myself why I was doing this. I could have left the bowl. I could have stayed in my house and faced my beans. I could have avoided whatever was waiting for me at the end of that road. But something kept pulling me forward. I passed a group of children playing in front of one broken fence. Their clothes were dirty, but they were laughing. I wished that the woman's children were also playing somewhere, smiling, free, happy. I wished she just exaggerated her suffering out of shame. I prayed silently that maybe things were not as bad as she made them sound. I wanted that prayer to be true. When I reached the small backyard compound she described, I knew immediately that life was hard there. The walls had cracks like veins. The roof had patches of different colors. Some window shutters were tied with rope to stop them from falling. A small gutter in the center carried dirty water slowly like it was tired of working. I saw one small boy sitting outside on a stool, pressing his toes into the sand. He looked up at me without smiling. His eyes were too serious for a child. I greeted him and asked if Ngozi lived inside. He pointed to a door at the far end and continued pressing his toes into the ground. I walked to the door and knocked. No answer. I knocked again, still nothing. I felt fear rise in my stomach. I pushed the door lightly and it opened a little. The smell of boiled water and something sour touched my nose. I pushed the door fully and stepped inside. That was when my whole body froze. The first thing I saw was a small girl lying on a thin foam mattress. She was not sleeping. Her eyes were open but empty, like someone who had cried until no tears were left. Her lips were dry and cracking. She held her stomach with both hands, like she was trying to hold pain inside and stop it from leaking out. A small baby lay on a wrapper on the floor. The baby was breathing fast, too fast for comfort. Sweat covered the baby's neck, but the room felt cold. I felt my heart shake. It felt like something was squeezing it. Then I saw their mother. Ngozi sat on the floor beside an empty pot on a small stove with only hot water inside. She held the nylon of rice I gave her like it was gold. She was picking stones from the rice carefully. Too carefully. As if any grain that fell might break her completely. She did not hear me at first because she was crying quietly. Her shoulders moved up and down slowly. When she finally looked up and saw me holding the bowl, her face changed. Shame, fear, hope, and surprise all entered her eyes at the same time. I did not know what to say. My mouth went dry. I had never seen hunger like that. Hunger that sits like a person inside a room. Hunger that has a voice and a smell. Hunger that steals strength from children and makes mothers look like shadows of themselves. I felt something heavy settle inside me. Returning that bowl was not going to be the end of anything. It was only the beginning. And standing there, looking at those children, I knew my life had just stepped into a place it could not walk out of easily. I stood there in that small room holding the cracked bowl like it was the only thing keeping my hand steady. I wanted to speak, but my throat felt tight. Ngozi wiped her face with the back of her hand and shifted away from the pot as if she did not want me to see the truth too clearly. But I had already seen it. The empty pot, the hungry children, the weak baby on the floor, the suffering inside that room was louder than any words she could hide. I knelt down beside the little girl on the foam and touched her forehead. Her skin felt warm, but her body felt weak. She tried to smile at me, but the smile only lasted for 1 second before it fell away. I looked at the baby next. The baby's breath was too fast. I felt fear move through my body like cold water. Ngozi finally spoke. Her voice was low and cracked. She said she had not eaten since the previous afternoon. She said the children only drank water before sleeping the night before. She said she had walked around for hours in the sun begging for help, but people chased her away or ignored her. When she reached my gate and begged me, she said something told her that she must not leave without that rice. The more she talked, the more something inside me broke. I sat on the floor beside her because my legs could not carry me anymore. I looked at the nylon of rice in her hand, just 1 cup. 1 small cup meant to feed 4 mouths. It looked so small, too small, like a joke, like the world was laughing at her pain. Ngozi told me she used to clean offices in town, but when her baby fell sick, she missed work too many days and they replaced her. She had no family in town. Her husband left one night after losing his job and never came back. She said she wanted to die some days, but she could not leave her children behind. She said she prayed every night for a miracle. I felt my eyes grow wet. I wanted to help immediately. I wanted to carry all of them home. I wanted to open my kitchen and pour everything inside their pot. But then I remembered my husband. I remembered the warning he gave me. I remembered how serious he was about money, about saving for our land, about not helping strangers anymore. Okechukwu did not joke with money. He counted every kobo. He said any small mistake could scatter our future. He said charity was for people who already had plenty. He said if I kept giving out food and money, he would remove my name from the land we planned to buy together. He said the shop belonged to him, and he was only allowing me to manage it as his wife. His words were like a chain around my neck. Sitting in that room, those words stabbed me again. I knew if I helped Ngozi properly, I would pay for it. Not small payment, big one. My marriage, my peace, my place in the shop, my name on the land papers. All of it was hanging inside my mind like a heavy load. But I looked at those children again. I looked at the baby gasping. I looked at the little girl's empty eyes. I looked at the mother who had already lost almost everything. And I knew something important, something painful but true. If I walked out of that room with only the empty bowl in my hand, I would never forgive myself. I would carry that guilt for the rest of my life. Those children would follow me in my dreams. Ngozi tried to thank me again for the rice, but her voice broke halfway. I touched her shoulder softly. In that moment, I made a choice inside my heart, even before my mouth said anything. I was going to help her, no matter the cost, and I knew the cost would be plenty. I left Ngozi's room with my heart beating fast and my legs shaking. The cracked bowl felt heavier in my hand than it should. As I walked back home, the sun looked different, the road looked different, even the sound of people talking sounded far away. All I could see was the baby breathing too fast and the little girl holding her stomach like someone squeezing pain inside. I kept asking myself how long they had been living like that. How many days had passed with them watching water boil without food inside? I reached my gate and stood for a long time before entering. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what was right, but I also knew what it would cost me. When I opened the door, I saw my husband sitting in the sitting room counting the money from our shop. He always counted money at home like it was a baby he did not want anyone else to touch. He looked up when he saw the bowl in my hand. He asked me where I went. His voice was already carrying small suspicion. I told him I went to return the bowl the woman forgot. He frowned and shook his head. He said I should stop allowing strangers to drag me into their problems. He said we were already struggling to gather money to buy our land, and any small mistake could scatter the plan we'd been building for years. He warned me again never to give out anything from the shop or from the house without telling him. I stood there listening, but my mind was still in that tiny room with hungry children. My husband continued talking. He said this world was hard, and only people who hold their money tight survive. He said helping people that cannot help themselves was a slow way of destroying your own future. He asked me if I wanted to throw away everything we had been working for. I did not answer him. I just went into the room quietly and shut the door. I sat on the edge of the bed and held my head. The battle inside me was heavy. On one side was my marriage, our shop, our land, our plans. On the other side were those children with empty eyes. It felt like I was standing between two fires, and no matter where I moved, something important would burn. After sitting for a long time, I stood up and opened the box under the bed where we kept the shop money that was not yet taken to the bank. My hands were shaking as I opened the zipper. I took out a bag of rice we kept for home use. I took gari, I took beans, then I took 5,000 naira from the bundle of notes inside the box. My heart was beating like a drum, because I knew my husband would notice the money was missing. I stood there holding everything and breathing fast. I tried to tell myself to stop. I tried to remind myself of the warning he gave me. I tried to imagine his anger, the shouting, the way he would look at me like someone who had broken something important, the way he might push me out of the shop or remove my name from the land papers. All those fears filled my chest. But when I closed my eyes, I saw the baby again. I saw the little girl again. And suddenly, all the fear became small, too small to stop me. I entered the kitchen and cooked a full pot of rice with stew. I wrapped the food well. I packed everything I had taken in a bag. Then I carried it outside and started walking back to Ngozi's compound. Every step I took felt like I was stepping deeper into trouble, but my legs did not stop. They moved like they knew something my mind was still afraid to accept. I was choosing kindness over fear. I was choosing strangers' children over my own comfort. And I knew this decision would shake my house in a way it had never been shaken before. I reached Ngozi's compound again, holding the food, the rice, the beans, the gari, and the money I took from the box. My heart was beating fast, but my legs did not stop. When I entered her room, she looked up with surprise. Her eyes widened when she saw the food in my hands. She stood up quickly like she wanted to kneel down and thank me, but I stopped her with a small shake of my head. My eyes were already filled with tears. I opened the pot and served her children first. The small girl sat up slowly and grabbed the plate with weak hands. She did not even wait for it to cool. She started eating like someone who had been fighting hunger for many days. The baby also sucked on the soft mashed rice I pressed into his mouth. His breathing slowed a little. Ngozi started crying again, but her tears this time were different. They were tears of relief. Tears of someone who had been drowning and finally found something to hold. After they finished eating, I brought out the money and placed it in her hand. She tried to refuse it, but I closed her fingers around it. I told her she would use it to buy medicine for the baby and also buy small things before the week ended. She covered her face with both hands and cried into her palms. I sat beside her for a while, watching her breathe easier than when I first met her. But as I walked back home, fear entered my chest again. I knew what was waiting for me. When I opened the door, I saw my husband standing in the sitting room with the empty box in his hand. His face was hard like stone. He asked me what I used the money for. I stood still. I wished I could disappear. When I told him the truth, he shouted until his voice shook the room. He told me he was removing my name from the land papers. He told me the shop was now his alone. He told me I had chosen strangers over my own home. His words pierced me, but I did not defend myself. I just walked inside quietly. My body was shaking, but my mind was calm. I knew I did what was right. For 2 days, my husband did not talk to me. He walked around like someone carrying a wound inside. I could not sleep well. Each time I closed my eyes, I kept wondering if I had destroyed the future we planned. But then something unexpected happened. On the third evening, rain started falling heavily. My husband went out to buy something from the nearby junction. When he came back, he was holding 2 children under his umbrella. He was wet, the children were wetter, and his face was different. He told me he saw Ngozi's children standing outside in the rain shaking, waiting for their mother who had fainted from weakness inside the room. He carried them into their house and saw everything I had seen. He sat down slowly on our chair, breathing hard. For a long time, he did not say anything. Then he told me he understood now. He said nobody deserved to live like that. He said he was sorry. The next morning, he returned the land papers to me with my name still on them. He gave me money to buy food for Ngozi again. He did not say many words, but his actions showed everything. He had changed. Weeks passed. Ngozi grew stronger. She found a small job washing clothes and cleaning houses. Her children became healthier. The baby started smiling whenever he saw me. Sometimes they came to visit with roasted ground nuts wrapped in paper as a gift. One evening, as I watched them walk out of my compound, holding each other and looking brighter than the day I first saw them, I felt something settle inside my heart. Something warm, something peaceful. Helping them did not destroy my life the way I feared. It changed it. And it changed my husband too. From that day, whenever I think of the cracked bowl the woman forgot at my gate, I know it was not just a bowl. It was the beginning of a story that taught me the real meaning of sharing, of courage, of kindness that costs something. And I never regretted it. Not for one day.